My name is Rosanne Calabrese. I'm an acupuncture physician. I've been an acupuncture physician for about 12 years now. Before that, I was a firefighter for 15 years. And my diet before getting sick was, I guess I was a vegan for about 18 years up until the point that I got sick. Really didn't eat wheat or gluten or anything like that for many years. I'd say probably the last 10 years before I got sick. Well, about, 4 years ago almost, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. It's an autoimmune disorder of the thyroid. I had symptoms of it apparently for maybe a year. Things like irritability, easy to cry and get upset, some night sweats, or feeling hot, feeling general body achiness, and always feeling revved up. And I didn't drink coffee, and I still don't drink coffee, but always feeling that revved up feeling, that always on the edge. So after dealing with these symptoms for about a year or so and just thinking that I was stressed, I was just working a lot, I had a lot on my mind, always had my patients on my mind, so I just thought, well, I'm just dealing with stress. Until one day I woke up at about 5:30 in the morning, and I noticed that my heart was really racing. I thought maybe I had a bad dream, maybe I heard a noise, but I looked over to my left and my husband was still asleep, and looked onto the floor, my dog was still asleep, so I knew it wasn't a strange noise that woke me up. So I thought, well, maybe I just had a bad dream. So I laid back down and tried to go to sleep, but I couldn't, because all I could do is hear this pounding in my ear, the ear that was against the pillow. And that pounding was my heartbeat. So I turned over to the other side, and the same thing. I just heard this pounding in my ear, and it wouldn't relent. It just kept on. And after maybe 15 or 20 minutes trying to go back to sleep, I decided, let me just get up and get ready for work. So that's what I did. I got up, and once I got moving and got into my day, I didn't feel it as much. Not to say that the heart rate had slowed down, but I just really didn't notice it. I was up, I was showered, I got breakfast, and ran to the office and started doing my thing, and really didn't notice it again until I got home that night. I got home, made dinner for my husband and I, watched a little TV, and when we went to bed, I was pretty tired. And I remember falling off to sleep pretty quickly, but then probably within an hour I was up again, feeling that feeling of heart racing and just total anxiety. Again, thinking that I had a lot going on, a lot on my mind, I was working a lot, I decided, okay, let me go sit in the living room, maybe turn on some TV. I sat in my trusty rocking chair, which I've had a rocking chair since I was probably 3 years old, and found myself kind of dozing off in the rocking chair, but still unable to lie down without hearing that pounding in my ear. This went on for 2 weeks until my husband finally said to me, what are you going to do about this? You can't go without sleeping. You have to be able to sleep at night. So I decided to go to a doctor. I didn't have a conventional doctor anymore. I've been my own doctor for so many years up until that point. I was a practitioner for 8 years up until that point. So I decided, let me go to find a doctor in the phone book, and that's what I did. I found a DO who was 5 minutes away from where I lived, and I went there. As I sat across the desk from him, he asked me why I was there, and I said, well, I don't really know why I'm here, because I know that whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to probably argue with you. I said, I think I'm stressed, I think I'm overworked, and it's caused me to not be able to sleep, and has caused my heart to not really be able to go under 100 beats per minute in the last 2 weeks. So he looked across to me, and he looked at my throat, and he said, do you think it has anything to do with that goiter on your throat? I said, I don't have a goiter. You know, goiter's a thyroid tumor. I said, I don't have a goiter. He said, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't have a goiter. He said, no, you do have a goiter. And he went, he got a mirror and he brought it in and handed it to me and had me look at my throat, at my neck. And he said, honey, you've got a goiter. And sure enough, I had a goiter that I had been too busy to notice. I said to him, well, what do you do about this? He said, well, let's take some tests. I drew some blood, did an ultrasound, and he said, we'll get back together in a few days and I'll let you know what we found. So I said, okay, good idea. And came back a few days later and he said to me, well, you have Graves' disease. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. He said, it's a hyperthyroid condition, which I knew. It's an autoimmune condition, which I knew, where the body is supposedly attacking itself. And I said, well, what do you guys do about something like this? And he said to me, well, it's a simple fix. And I thought, well, simple is good. I like simple. He said, you take one pill. It's a small pill. It's a radioactive iodine pill. You take that pill. You stay away from pregnant women and small children for 5 or 6 days. And that pill has iodine and radiation, and the iodine goes directly to the thyroid, and the radiation kills your thyroid. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound like a good idea. He goes, no, it's fine. And then you go on Synthroid, synthetic thyroid hormone, for the rest of your life. And once you do that, everything's fine. And I thought to myself, well, that doesn't seem really true, because I see plenty of thyroid patients, hypothyroid patients on Synthroid who are not fine, who are not regulated, who do not feel good, who don't have energy, who have gained a lot of weight. And I said to him, well, okay, that's an interesting plan, but what's plan B? What are my alternatives? What are my other choices? And he said, you have no other choices. This is your choice. This is what we do. And I thought, well, that's not going to be my choice. I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to find another way. And he said to me, you're not going to be successful. You're going to probably get really sick, and you have to radiate your thyroid. And I left. Got home after a few tears with my husband. We got on the internet and we started searching. And it turned out there's not a lot of answers for hyperthyroid. Plenty of things on the internet about hypothyroid, but not a lot about hyperthyroid. So we decided I was going to follow the cleansing path, the detox path. And I had two choices in my head. I could either go to Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, which is about an hour away from where I live, or I could go out to Arizona to Gabriel Cousins' Tree of Life. And I chose Tree of Life because it's Arizona. It's different. It's getting me out of my environment. It will keep me from being able to answer the phone, deal with patients, deal with things going on at the house, and really just be far enough away where I can deal with this issue. So it took me a couple of weeks to get arrangements to go out there, and I went. I was there about 24 hours. They were just doing some basic testing, some blood tests, some saliva tests, when I had what's called a thyroid storm. And a thyroid storm is a situation where your thyroid starts to secrete large amounts of thyroid hormone into your bloodstream. And your thyroid runs your metabolism, among other things, and so my metabolism started to speed up. My heart rate went through the roof. It was up to 140. My blood pressure, for me, was very high, 130s over 80s, up to 90 at times. I was getting very hot. I was getting very anxious. I was feeling very sick, very nauseous, and we had to call 911, and the ambulance came and took me to the nearest hospital, which was about an hour away. And in the hospital, they put me on medication, and beta blocker to slow my heart down, a thyroid medicine to calm the thyroid down. I was in that hospital for 4 days. After 4 days, my husband took me to his brother's house so that we can fly home the next day. And as it turns out, within a few hours, I had another thyroid storm. Brought me to a different hospital where they gave me a more appropriate medication, along with more beta blockers and some anti-anxiety medication. and we waited 2 more days, and after that we were able to fly home. In 6 days I lost 11 pounds, and I was not big to begin with. I was around 118 when all of this started. I went home in a wheelchair. I was weak, I was emaciated, I couldn't work. Once I started to build up a little bit more strength with the help of the medication, it's called Methimazole, I was able to start to think about my plan, think about what am I going to do. I found an endocrinologist at Cleveland Clinic, and we spoke for a while. My husband and my mother-in-law were with me, and he said, well, you're pretty sick. He's looked at my blood tests and my ultrasound of my thyroid, my antibodies, and he said, you're going to have to stay on this medication anywhere from 12 to 18 months. Once the thyroid starts to calm down, we can talk about weaning you off, and at that point, if we can get you off of the medication for 7 days, and I thought, oh, great, he's going to tell me I'll be fine. He said, if we can get you off the medication for 7 days, we'll be able to radiate your thyroid and kill it and put you on Synthroid. And I thought, oh my God, we're back here again. So I figured we had 18 months tops for me to be able to find another way. And once again, I jumped on the internet. I called and spoke to doctors all over the country, doctors in California, MDs, NDs, DOs. Everyone would get a copy of my blood work and my ultrasound and my history, and each one would tell me, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Best you could do is stay on Methimazole. Best you could do is radiate your thyroid and kill it. There's no turning this around. Over and over and over again, I got shot down with being able to kill my thyroid. And then one day, I was back to work, maybe working 1 or 2 days a week, and a friend of mine and I decided to go out to lunch. And we went to a local raw food restaurant run by a gentleman that used to work in the same fire department that I worked in. And we walked in, and Raoul saw me, and he said, hey, Roseanne, how are you doing? He said, I heard you've been really sick. And I thought, well, you don't have to hear that to know, because all you have to do is look at me. He said, what's going on? What are you doing? And I told him the whole story, and he reached under his counter and he grabbed a brochure, and he said to me, I need you to call this man right now. And I looked at the brochure, and it was a friendly-looking gentleman and a little brochure filled with herbal formulas. And in my practice, I use herbal formulas, I use Chinese formulas, and I've used those on myself since this all started, and of course before, if any little things popped up. And he said to me, you need to call this guy. And I said, well, you know, Raoul, I've talked to so many people. As a matter of fact, I had a tray of vitamins and minerals and enzymes, probiotics, that were prescribed to me by an MD who did something called functional medicine. And she told me that after taking 21 vials of my blood, that I was deficient in all of these vitamins and minerals and things. So if I took them, that would possibly help reverse this thyroid disease. So at that time that I was talking to Raoul, I literally had a huge tray full of vitamins and minerals. And you know, when I looked at this brochure filled with herbs, I thought, okay, it's just another list of things for me to take. But he said to me, Roseanne, you need to trust me and call him. So I did. I called. It took me a couple of months to get an appointment. And when I finally got an appointment, it was about a 3.5-hour drive from my home. And my husband and I went to meet Dr. Morse. The first thing I noticed, you know, when he walked into the room is his white, gray, silver hair. And I thought, and his little goatee, I thought, wow, I came to see Colonel Sanders. This is great. He was very happy, very jovial, gave us a big hug, and he said, tell me what's going on. Tell me why you're here. So I went through my whole history, the whole story, he looked at my questionnaire that he had me fill out ahead of time, and he held it up like he was holding up a tissue. And he said, "So, darling, is this it? Is this all you got?" And by this point I was in tears. I was so tired. I was so weak. I felt so dejected. I felt that I was never going to get well again. And now this man is making fun of the fact that I had Graves' disease. And by the way, my second diagnosis, Hashimoto's disease. And I thought, I can't believe he's talking to me like this. He said, "This is all you got, huh?" He said, "Well, that's okay. We can fix that." And I said, "What do you mean you can fix it?" He said, "Well, you want to keep your thyroid, don't you?" I said, "That's all I want to do. I want to keep my thyroid and I want to get off medication." He said, "Yep, that's no problem. Here's what you got to do." And he simply spelled out 3 things. I had to eat fruits and vegetables. I had to take the herbs he prescribed. And I had to have fun with it. He wanted me to have fun with it. Enjoy your food. Enjoy the fruit. Enjoy the juices. Be happy. Thank God. Thank God for every moment. Thank God for everything that he gave you to put into your body, because these are the things that heal. These are the things that reverse disease. There is no other. There is no drug. There is no surgery. There is no radiation. There is no magic cure. These are the things that God gave us to keep the body well. And if, God forbid, we alter our diets from these gifts, then they will bring us back to, as he loves to call it, Wellville. In a way, I felt he was preaching to the choir. My husband and I at that point had been vegan for 18 years. We worked out, we took care of our bodies, we did yoga, we did walking or running, kayaking. He rides dirt bikes, I ride a horse. And I thought, okay, we believe in this. We believe in the body's ability to heal. So we're going to give this a try. I'm going to give this a try. But then in just a few moments after Dr. Morse started to explain the process, my husband said, "Can I do this with her?" He had some high blood pressure after having some ankle surgery. And so he wanted to do it with me. He wanted to support me, and he wanted to see, what is this all about? So we went home with 2 large boxes of herbs. As we drove home, we talked about the meeting. We talked about the difference in how it felt to go to somebody who cared, who understood, who saw that there was an ability for the body to heal. So we were very excited about this process. A little scared, definitely. I did not want to go through a thyroid storm again. But I wasn't going off my medication right away. So we got home, we went to the grocery store, we picked up tons of fruits and vegetables, and that night we started. About a week later, I had an appointment with my endocrinologist. And of course, my husband came with me again. And the prior appointment, that was 2 weeks earlier, the endocrinologist said, as he palpated my thyroid, "You know, if this thyroid continues to grow, we're going to have to biopsy it." And I thought, I don't want anyone sticking a knife or a needle into my thyroid. Well, here it is 2 weeks after that visit, and 1 week after starting detox, and my endocrinologist again came to palpate my thyroid, and he said to me, "Your thyroid is getting smaller." And my husband looked at me, and from the corner of my eye, I looked back at him like, "Don't say anything yet. We're not home free yet." So when we walked out of the office, we discussed the fact that, in fact, even though it had been months since this whole thing started, that the thyroid kept growing, this is the first time it ever went in the opposite direction. Over the course of 16 weeks, I followed Dr. Morse's protocol 100%, as did my husband. By week 14, I was no longer on medication. I was not on beta blockers. I was not on thyroid medication. I was not on vitamins or minerals, except those that God gives you in your food, in your fruits and vegetables. I was still taking the herbs. My thyroid was smaller. By week 16, I went to see my endocrinologist. And as he walked into the room with my file and my latest blood work that was taken the day before, he said to me, "Your thyroid is normal. What did you do?" And I said to him, "Doc, you don't want to hear the answer to that." And he said, "Yes, I do. Please tell me what you did." And I said, "Well, I ate fruit and I ate vegetables. Nothing else, just those. And I reached into my purse and I took out a bottle of Dr. Morse's herbs and I handed it to my endocrinologist and I said, and I took a bunch of bottles similar to this." And he looked at the bottle, flipped it over, read it, handed it back to me, and he said, "I don't know what this is." And I said, "Well, that's what I did." He said to me, "Roseanne, I can't tell you that that is what made your thyroid function normally. I can't tell you that's why your blood work is normal. I can't tell you that those herbs or that fruit or vegetable is why you don't have a goiter anymore." I said to him, "Well, Doc, you know what? That's fine with me. Let's just say that your Methimazole cured my thyroid and we'll walk away friends. You've been a great guy. You've put up with me. You've monitored me the whole time. You've made phone calls to check on me. I've seen you about every 2 weeks for the last several months. So I'm happy to say that your medication has cured me, and we'll call it a day." And he said to me, "Roseanne, I can tell you 2 things. Number 1, Methimazole is not a curative drug. That's not what it does. It suppresses your thyroid symptoms until we can radiate the thyroid." He said, "Number 2, while some people go into remission on Methimazole," he said, "I never thought you would. Your numbers were so high. Your antibodies were so high. Your symptoms were so bad. I never thought you would go into remission." I said, "Well, Doc, let's just call it a team effort." And that was that. I walked out. He gave me some tests for blood work to take in another few months. A few months later, I took my test for my thyroid function as well as my antibodies. My antibodies were over 8,000, and after just 6 months, they were down to 136. 140 or below is normal. I went back to working, full schedule. I went back to riding my horse. I went back to taking long walks with my husband and our dog. And best of all, I studied and trained with Dr. Morse so that I can help other people. Because I believe that beyond my healing and beyond my help, there was a higher purpose, a more grand reason as to why I got sick and as to why I got well, as to why I was open to hearing what Dr. Morse had to say and allowing God, nature, fruits, vegetables, herbs to be able to come into my life and enter into my body and heal me. There's much more out there, and Dr. Morse talks about this, talks about the higher levels of the human being, talks about spirituality and how this is an innate part of us. It's not separate from us. You can't follow the trend of Western medicine and separate that part of you from this vehicle that takes you, that allows you to travel through the world and experience life. You can't separate that. And for me, that spiritual part, that ability to connect with your breath, to connect with meditation, to connect connect with yoga and to connect with other people, because our purpose is a lot greater than just healing our own bodies. What I learned with Dr. Morse for myself is what I am able to share these days with my patients to such a higher and greater extent than I did before. Detox symptoms. Everyone wants to know that when they first come into the office and start talking about the possibility of doing a detox. The fear is that they're not going to feel well. And the fear is a founded fear. It's legitimate. There's so many, though, varying degrees of detox symptoms, from something small like sneezing or headaches or body itching to things as serious as being extremely fatigued, needing to lie down, resting a lot, boils, cysts, tumors even pushing through the skin. I didn't have those. What I experienced was definitely fatigue, definitely headaches. I was not a coffee drinker. I really wasn't doing any sugar, sweets, or things like that. But I definitely experienced headaches like what you would assume you might have if you stop drinking coffee or get off sugar. I would get some skin rashes, oddly enough mostly on my legs, sometimes on my face, sneezing, a lot of mucus, my voice would get raspy at times, sometimes burning urination, which I later realized is a very common part of detox. We see a lot of people experience that. Those are mostly the symptoms that I had. Oh, body pains. I broke my pelvis several years before the Thyroid Storm, a little horse incident. And as I went through this detox, old body pains came up, like my pelvic fracture, like tendonitis in my elbow, ankle sprain that I had years ago that was a pretty serious sprain. So I would feel things like that in terms of my detox symptoms. The spiritual aspect of my journey through this is definitely interesting. This is not a religious experience. It is not connected to religion in any way. This experience is connected to self. And like Dr. Morse talks about, it's connected to source, the source of all things, the source of all creation. In this process, you realize that you are actually the source of creation, that you actually can create your own reality, your own world, your own cells, your own consciousness. It's very important in this process, I think, to be in touch with that, to understand that there's something even greater and bigger than you are. And so it's an up and down journey. As you feel good, you feel more connected. Sometimes when you're going through your detox symptoms, at least for me, I went more inside and felt down and sometimes hopeless through that process. Even though I saw on paper I was getting better, sometimes that feeling of hopelessness was so strong that it really became time to connect with some aspect of your spirituality. I think that the lack of spirituality, the lack of connection to your source is a big part of why we get sick. Because we're working outside of ourselves. We're working on the level of ego. We're working on not connecting with nature, not connecting with the Creator. So I think that in this process, it gives you that opportunity. Sometimes when you don't feel well, you can do nothing else but sit and be with your thoughts, with your breath and meditation. So it's very, very important to tap into that. And ultimately it gives you strength to go the next day, to go the next meal, you know, when you're craving something, to tap into your source, to your spirituality, and go into that next meal with, as he says, joy and excitement and happiness and fun. The advice that I would give others who are suffering from health challenges is never, ever, ever give up. Never take no for an answer. No, you can't get better. No, you can't reverse this. No, you'll be on medication the rest of your life. Don't accept that. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Keep looking, keep striving. In my opinion, this is the way. There are other ways. There's Dr. Gerson, there's Hippocrates, there's Tree of Life. There are other ways that help people also. But in my personal experience, in my experience with myself, as well as my experience with my patients, this is the way. This is the path to finding wholeness in your body, in your cells, in your mind, in your thoughts, and in your spirit. I have found no other way. And of course, eat fruit, eat vegetables, take herbs, and be well. Thank you.